Well, things were finally looking up for Joseph. It had been 13 years since his brothers had sold him into slavery into Egypt. But God was with him through it all. Joseph was able to survive and thrive in spite of the sour lemons that God had allowed in his life, by knowing that God loved him and by serving and loving him back. So Joseph poured himself into doing what God had given him to do for the king. During the first 7 years, the good years of abundance, Joseph traveled throughout the land and bought tons and tons of grain. By the first year of the famine, King Pharaoh's bins were overflowing with grain. And soon people were coming from all over Egypt and other countries to buy grain. Miles away, in the land of Canaan, there was a family who was also suffering from the famine. That family was Joseph's family. By now, his father and brothers were 20 years older. One day, Jacob said to his sons, "Why are you all just sitting here looking at one another? Word has it that there's grain in Egypt. Saddle up your donkeys and go buy some food for us so we don't starve from the famine." Well, it took many days to traverse 500 miles from Canaan to Egypt. But they finally arrived at this magnificent capital in Egypt. And they made their way to the palace where the grain was being sold. Walking into the court, the brothers approached a distinguished Egyptian prince, and they all bowed down to him to pay him honor. They didn't recognize this Egyptian prince before whom they bowed. But he certainly recognized them and remembered the dream that he had had 20 years before about his brothers' bundles of grain bowing down to his. Well, it will become apparent why Joseph did not reveal himself to them and why he was smart not to do so. Staying anonymous would be the key to discovering whether his brothers' hearts had changed and whether they had become good men. But Joseph was also desperate for news of his father and his younger brother Benjamin, so he questioned the brothers closely through an interpreter. "Where do you come from and why are you here?" he asked them. "Oh, we're all sons of the same father. We came here from Canaan to buy grain," they said. "You're spies," he accused them. "Oh, no, my lord," replied the brothers. "We're honest men. We are all sons of the same father." "Is your father still alive?" "Oh, yes," they replied. "Is there another brother in your home?" "Oh, yes, we have a brother still at home with our father and another one that's gone." "It is as I said, you are spies," Joseph said harshly to them, and put them in custody for 3 days. This would give him time to think of a plan that would help his family and also help him determine what kind of men his brothers had become. Were they changed, or were they still full of jealousy and hatred? After 3 days, he had them appear before him again. "If you are indeed honest men, you will return with your youngest brother, and in the meantime, I'll detain one of you and keep you here in Egypt." By holding one brother, he was sure that they would come back, and he made it clear that they shouldn't come back without the youngest brother. After hearing this, the brothers were visibly shaken. They knew their father would never allow Benjamin to leave his side, and they started to argue among themselves. "Surely we are being punished for what we did to Joseph," said one. "We're getting repaid for the evil thing we did to him," said Reuben the eldest. They had no idea that this Egyptian official understood every word that they were saying in Hebrew, or why he ran out of the room and later returned with watery eyes to dismiss them, minus one, to return to their father in Canaan. Now, it would take some time, but eventually the brothers came back with their younger brother, Benjamin, in tow. And it would take a few days of observation and tricks, a story for another chapter, but suffice it to say that only when Joseph was sure that his brothers' hearts had changed did he disclose his identity to them. And when it was time for the great reveal, Joseph ordered everyone out of the room except for his brothers. Now alone, Joseph burst into tears. "I'm Joseph! Is my father still living?" The brothers were speechless. They were terrified to think that this powerful prince was the brother that they had wronged so many years ago. Meanwhile, Joseph was crying so loudly that the Egyptians outside the room could hear him. "Come close to me, look at me. I'm your brother Joseph, the one you sold into slavery in Egypt. Oh, don't be angry with yourselves for selling me here. It was to save lives. God sent me here ahead of you to preserve the family in this time of famine." He repeated and repeated this, but still his brothers were unable to absorb it. Joseph threw his arms around Benjamin, his youngest brother, and wept. He embraced each of the brothers and wept over each one of them. That was a great day of healing for Joseph and his brothers. Emotions are a powerful thing, and if we're not careful how we share them, we can hurt others. But Joseph freely shared his emotions and expressed his feelings in such a way that brought comfort and healing to himself and to his family. And that's the end of the chapter of Joseph, the Great Lemonade Maker.